Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on when you get a chance to see this. And today, my name is Rachel Haney with Central Indiana Real Estate Investors Association. And today we have Will Hall, and Will Hall is actually with Nuparadox. Amy Lawrence, you guys probably know her. She's kind of the face of Nuparadox, so you guys will have seen her on the Wednesday Wins, and she often comes to a lot of our events and shakes hands with everybody. So you guys know her. This is the owner of Nuparadox. So, Will, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome. It's a beautiful day here in Indiana on this June afternoon. So it's awesome. How are you? I'm excited to meet you. Never had a chance to talk to you. So
yeah,
this is fun.
It's nice to get out. Are you at a home office or are you at your separate business?
No. Yeah, we're at our business office. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of where I work out of every day, even through. We don't have that. Most of our people are remote, so we only have about 2 or 3 people that actually work outside of our office. So.
Okay.
Yep. This is the corporate headquarters for Nuparadox.
Got it. Got it. Well, it's really nice to, I see your name all the time. You know, the community is so close knit, and I do see your name, so it's really nice to put another face to Nuparadox. You guys have been very successful. Actually I know you've kind of seen the list of questions. I have one more question to add at the end to surprise you. But tell me a little bit, Will, just you are actually a premier vendor for Cyria, so thank you so much for that. Tell me a little bit about what it is that you guys do and what's your area of expertise?
Yeah, so we're about 60% wholesale, and then the other 40% is owner finance. We do some owner and seller financing. We have our own buy and hold portfolio through our company that we do, and then obviously we do our own flips as well. So we're kind of a 60-40, so 60% wholesale, 40% rehab slash buy and holds.
Okay. Has it transitioned? Has the COVID accelerated the buy and hold at all this year, or was that the trend already prior to that?
No, that was already the trend. Originally we started this company, my wife and I, about 7 years ago, and that was the whole goal when we got into this, was to build a buy and hold portfolio. And so we didn't know what that would look like or how many or anything like that, but we just knew that, hey, we wanted to create some passive income. Mm-hmm. So that's always been a goal. It took us 3 years to really start buying at a consistent rate, because it took so much to get this business off the ground, as most people know. And so we're finally at the pace now where we feel like we can really accelerate that and hopefully put our foot on the gas on the buy and holds. And so the COVID thing really hasn't affected us. It really, honestly, I say it hasn't affected us. It affected everyone, obviously, but from a business standpoint, we ran into about a 2-3 week lull there where things had slowed down, money had stopped. A lot of the investors that we were wholesaling to couldn't get capital, and it's just kind of the trickle down effect. And then houses we had under contract prior to COVID pandemic, we had to sell them at a lower price than what we anticipated. Obviously, things were changing so fast. But from a buy and hold, now I feel like things kind of back up to normal. I feel like the money's back out there, business has picked up. So there's that. We're going to feel at the end of the year, we're going to look back and see. But I'm optimistic that the third and fourth quarter will be much busier for us than what a typical third or fourth quarter was. So I'm interested to see. I think we can still hit our goals or come really close with it, with hopefully a strong push going into the third or fourth. So we're sitting in June with the best month we've ever had. So I'm hoping that's a trend of what's to come for the second half of the year.
That's great to hear. I'm hearing it from both sides of the spectrum. So it's a relief to hear that Nuparadox have been doing, you guys had that 2 to 3 week lull, like you mentioned, but for the most part, you guys are kind of still on cue of where you guys are planning. So congratulations on that. That's fantastic to hear. So tell me a little bit about what are the services that you provide specifically for the members of Cyria?
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of look at it is we do a little bit of everything. Obviously, our niche is in wholesaling, so it's providing great investment properties to other investors. So, for Cyria, if you've got some buy and hold or flip guys, I know Amy's done a great job cultivating these relationships. Like I said, we go there to provide value, not to sell properties, right? And so whatever we can do to provide that value, sometimes it's, hey, who's your property manager? Who's a good general contractor? Who's a, whatever it is, that's what we're really there to do, is provide value. And if you do that, it'll come back to you. And I think Vicky is, it's easy to get behind Vicky. I think it's been very easy for us to do that. She's, no BS, hard worker, wants to grow this thing, wants to step out and do things that hasn't been done in some other local areas. And so it's good to get behind her on that. Since we do have our foot in a bunch of different things, with the buy and holds and with the flips and with the wholesale, we're a little untraditional in that way, that and that we feel like we can provide a lot of different value from other investors, because we do it. Not only do we wholesale houses, but we also flip them, and we also hold them, and we know what a good flip looks like. We know what a bad one looks like. We know what a good rental looks like and a bad one. And so we just try to help those, and we try to help newbies as much as we can. It wasn't that long ago when I was there, and we try to provide them with as much value as we can as well. So our niche, I guess, if you would say what's maybe different about us from others, is although we do some of our own general contracting ourselves, but we also use other general contractors. We refer those. It's not a secret, right? I mean, we've got some, so if you buy a property off of us and you don't have anyone to manage it, we give you we use about 3 different property managers, depending on the location and the type of rental it is. So, hey, here's our property manager. Call them up. Like, here's 3 of them. They're all vetted by me.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you what I like and don't like about each of them,
Mm-hmm.
and do your own due diligence. And same with general contractors and such. So we just try to help them be, we know that if we do that for them, they're going to keep coming back and buying properties.
Right. So it sounds like what you're saying is when people do business with you, you go out of your way to help extend their success through the connections and relationships that you guys have cultivated in the years that you've been through this. And that's really good to know as a newbie in here, to know that, hey, I'm doing business with somebody who is going to help kind of guide me carry on and continue even after the sale has been completed. So
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear, and I think it provides a lot of comfort to, especially a lot of newbies.
Right.
So tell me, can you share some success stories and ways you've helped people struggling who try to sell their home? I know one side of your business is acquisitions and then dispositions. Do you guys have any success stories on people who had a really difficult time on trying to sell their home?
Yeah. I mean, we do. I mean, there's so many of them, right? I mean, people always ask, like, why would anyone sell their house to you? Like, why would they, 'cause obviously there has to be, we have, we obviously have to make money somehow, some way, shape or form. Why would someone sell at a discount, right? And, the reality is that 90, maybe even 95% of people won't, right? We deal with the 5%. That's our job, is the 5% of people who can't do it traditionally for whatever reason that might be. And I've always said that our team, we're in the people business. The house happens to be part of the transaction and kind of gets them from point A to point B. But ultimately, we're there to buy a problem. And if they don't have a problem, most likely it's really hard for us to help them. And the bigger the problem, the more value we can bring, right? And so, we've had, from buying mobile homes, right? We've just bought, lately we bought a couple of mobile homes. Well, those are really hard to sell because you can't get financing on a traditional buyer. They're really hard to get financing on, and they don't have a lot of options to sell. So they either have to sell to, an investor, or they have to sell it on contract, which they don't want to do. Maybe you got to pull it out of a park if it's in a park. There's all kinds of different things where we can kind of come in and really help those people. And just one that we just helped was, her husband was in Florida, got sick in Florida, has to stay in Florida now. for a long period of time. She needed to get to Florida quickly. And so we were able to come in there, and within a week, we were able to close on it. We gave her some money then, and we let her still stay there for another couple of weeks. And then we gave her the rest of the proceeds afterwards. So it's really just about hearing their problems, hearing and kind of how we can solve them. And they're not all financial problems. People always think that these are just people in desperate financial needs. That's not the case at all. We've done a couple recently where the houses were $300,000 and $400,000 houses, and they're free and clear, and there is no financial. That's not it. It's more of a convenience. So it really feels good when you get that hug at the closing table. I miss that as being an owner. I'm not out doing that anymore, because this really, really is a people business. And for new people, that's one thing that we teach them. And I know Vicki would say this too, is like, you're not there just to tie up contracts and see if you can move houses. You're there to see if you can solve a problem for someone. And if you're not the solution, get them to is a solution. Find them a solution. Help them get them pointed in the right direction, even if you can't buy their house.
Yeah, and it just sounds like you guys have so much more flexibility in being able to assist. I know banks can seem really intimidating for a lot of people, but a small business company, I definitely think there's more of that. Okay, I can be a little bit more transparent with what's going on and not feel so overwhelmed.
Yes.
Sitting across versus a big corporation. So,
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really good to hear, and I think it's a huge reflection on what your company stands for. So, now you. Amy is a consistent face at Cyrea. But tell me a little bit about what your relationship is with Cyrea and how both parties are able to benefit from each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is when we started this, so when I got first connected with Cyrea, I was asked to come on to be on a panel. It was a wholesaling panel, and Vicki was within first couple meetings that she was running it. And so she was very new, as was I, and I really didn't know much about Cyrea. I'd been in some other organizations. So I was on the panel, and we had a massive turnout, and just saw so much value that they were providing that, naturally I became a member, and yeah. And so I started going. I was the one that was always going. This was before Amy, and this is, and was kind of always going. And so at first it was a way for me to connect with other people, to grow my business, which is really what it's helped me to do is Vicki, in my opinion, is much like what we try to be, is kind of a connector. Okay, what are you looking for? Oh, you need this type. You need to go talk to this person. Oh, you do seller financing? Go talk to this person. They do a lot of seller financing. You want to be a wholesaler, go talk to this person. And so she's a really good connector. And that's what I used Cyrea for. There was just, tremendous value, good speakers that came in. And then as we became more as a vendor and to help support that, it's my way of giving back, because essentially these things don't exist if you don't have those, your vendors in the room, that are paying to be there. And so it's one way of my giving back, and it's the other way of really it is a small community, of investors. It's such a small niche, and and so now it's really been a win for us, because we've been able to really promote our name, and I think we've built a trust with people at Cyrea, with Vicki, that we get referrals, from her, and I think that's, our name kind of speaks for, our reputation always is going to mean more than our pocketbook. We always kind of preach that. That's the most important thing, and the highest value that we bring. So I feel like it really comes back into us and building those relationships, and we sell a lot of houses to people that come to Cyrea. And some of them are out of state. A lot of them, I feel like, have moved out of state and now live in Indiana. I mean, these people have really made massive commitments, to grow their business. So I think it's just been a huge win-win. It's like anything else. The more you give, the more you'll get. And if you go to Cyria and you don't talk to anybody and you just sit there and you listen to the speakers, you're probably not going to get much out of it. But if you go there and you network and you talk and you help other people and try to connect other people, those things just really come tenfold. So Amy's really, really good at that. And that was really important to me when we hired Amy, or had Amy start doing that, was like part of her responsibility to go to these things. And now it's funny that I went not too long ago, and I think it was something we were sponsoring and or something, and I was there, and someone came up to me. I was at our Nuparadox booth. Someone goes, "Oh, you're with Nuparadox." I said, "Yep," and they're like, "You work for Amy?" And I said, "Yep." And I just was like, "I sure do," and that's the truth. I do work. That is my job. Is I work for Amy and a lot of other people on our team. So yeah, so we get a lot of benefits from it. It's huge. It's a great networking thing, and it's fun. I know Amy's really missed it with this whole COVID thing, because the virtual thing just isn't the same.
No, it's really not the same. No.
No.
It just shows that you did a really good job hiring her, because when they think that she's the boss, then it looks like you actually did a great job at hiring a person. She's and I can honestly say she lights up a room whenever she's in there. Everybody knows that Amy's there. So well done. I love Amy. She's fantastic. Okay, so do you have any reviews that you want to share with us? Otherwise, if you want to just route us to your website, I'm happy to do that in the commentary section.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you just go to nuparadox.com, if you can put those in the notes there, and like I said, give us a call. Let us know how we can help you, whether that's finding a property, whether that's, we don't do our own, construction. We don't have our own construction company. We don't company. So everything we do, we refer out to vendors that have been vetted and trusted by us. So let us know how we can help you, whether you buy a house.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I will be, when this is published, all of the information for Nuparadox will be above or below, depending on where this is at. But we'll have easy access for all of your social media platforms, so people can follow you and check you and like you and keep updated with all of your news and everything. Last question of the day. What is your advice if whatever you're doing in real estate investment, what is your golden nugget for anybody that's just starting out? It doesn't matter if wholesaling or fix and flips or real estate agent. What is your tip of the day?
Consistency. Consistent. I think that's the number one thing. Whether you're just starting out, and I got to remind myself to this day, is you got to be consistent, and whatever that is, if whatever route you're going, you got to be consistent. Obviously, I think a lot of people, they try to do direct mailing, or they try to do whatever, and they try it for 30 days and it doesn't work, and they say, well, this doesn't work. This is fail. And yes, we've built a good brand, yes, we've built a good business, but and it hasn't been a long time, but this was 7 years ago when we started this. A little over 6 years ago, and really our growth didn't come till after year 3. And I think the people who are successful in this business are people who stay consistent, and people who just don't, it's up here more than it is anything. You've got to keep your head right. You got to read the right books. You got to listen to the right podcast. And just remember, I heard this not too long ago, and it resonated in me where I'm at in my own businesses. There's always a point A where you are, and there's a point B where you want to be, right? And then there's the middle. And the middle can feel like failure sometimes, but in all reality, it's growth. It's really growth. What happens between point A and point B is growth. But if you're not careful, it'll feel like failure. And we ourselves that, hey, we're growing here. We're failing. We're trying new stuff, but we're growing. And, keep that in mind. Surround yourself around the right people. And I think that's what groups like Cyria do. You get around like-minded people, because most people, if you talk to your family or your friends, they'll be like, you're nuts. What are you doing? Like, keep your day, surround yourself with like-minded people. And that's what Cyria does. It gets all these crazy, nutty investors all in one room.
Yeah.
And we can talk shop, and we believe and we know it's possible. And there's people there encouraging you. And there's also people in that room that a year ago, 2 years ago, that were in your same shoes, that you can be like, hey, if you can do it, I can do it. So I give you a lot of advice there, maybe too much, but
No, that was fantastic. I absolutely love it. And, my background is actually in psychology, and I have a master's in professional counseling, and a chunk of it was for group counseling. And it's so funny because in group, what is the most powerful thing about being in a group is because we have multiple people that are in different areas of their journey, and and that's what gives you that ability to help each other out, because it reminds people in the beginning, and it reminds people who are later on, like, okay, I've seen my growth, and this is where I was, this is where I'm now, and it's kind of just really good to see that. And obviously for the newbies, they're like, oh, this person experienced this. So it's a powerful thing when groups of like-minded people are together and they can see the different transitions of their journey. And
yeah, I just to piggyback on that, I think that was probably one of my biggest things that helped me get me where I am, is I was able to surround myself. This is a very lonely business. It really is, right? And there's a lot of head trash. It's very hard. You're usually, when you're first starting, it's just you. Not a lot of, and when you go to a I don't care if it's Cyria or any other investor sort of meetup, go to as many as you can, because it's you don't feel alone when you go to those things. You feel like you to your point, you got a community there. And and these RIA groups have come so far. I mean, there's so many contacts now. There's so many people you can talk to that are willing to talk to you. So yeah, it's just a matter of whether you want to take advantage of it or not. But yeah, I think a lot of this is psychology. I feel like everything we deal with now is like.
Well, I love it. This community has been. I always tell my husband, like, we've been in various different businesses and stuff like that. I'm like, this is by far my favorite, and I love the community. Highly encourage everybody who's just on the fence or who is still nervous, get involved with a RIA, specific RIA. I'm going to promote that. So. But Will, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure, and I really do look forward. July 9th is our next big event. I really hope you'll be there, and shake hands. And it's gonna be big. We're gonna have food and a food truck. The garage doors are gonna be open for all that space. There's gonna be drinks, music. Someone's gonna be dancing somewhere.
Good. It'll be Amy too.
Exactly. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you there, and I can't wait to see you.
Yeah, you too, Rachel. Thanks for all that you guys do. Thanks for all the support.
Right. Thank you.